All right. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And we are going to be doing a bit of a live stream. So I'm just configuring this and getting set up here. This is the first live stream I've ever done. So I'm just kind of doing a bit of a test. We're going to look at a couple little things here, and then hopefully this live stream won't last too long, but you'll see some setup for a little series I want to do in the future. So what we've got here is each week I'm going to call this series my TekTok series. And so what I'm going to be doing is just overviewing a few of the recent developments or news or things like that that have happened in the last week or so in the web or graphics or technology areas in general. So I just want to kind of do a bit of an overview of a couple of these links and then maybe do a bit of a Q&A. In the future, maybe I have some plans for doing things like live question and answers where we can have some chat interaction and maybe bring on some guest developers or graphic designers, almost kind of like a podcast type of series. I'm going to experiment doing it live this first go round. Maybe I'll switch to doing a pre-recorded version. We'll kind of see. So anyway, in this little simple live stream here, we're going to be looking at 5 news articles that happened in the last week. And if you like this type of content, if you want to see more of this type of content, leave a comment down below. If you don't like it, you prefer the pre-recorded lectures, let me know as well. So I'm kind of experimenting with a bit of a new format here for some ideas I have on some more podcast or vodcast style live shows. Anyway, so for this first episode, we're going to be looking at 5 links here. And you can see the first link up here is just some news that's happened lately around the internet. So here's the first one. And this is that Firefox in the latest release, version 87, is now trimming the HTTP referrer by default to protect user privacy. So this is kind of interesting because this is going to affect a lot of the analytics and web-based analytics software that run on servers where you may no longer be able to see what the referring page was that referred you a visitor. So typically on the web, when a user visits your site, you're able to, through your HTTP headers, see what page the user was on previously before they came to your website, which works well because you kind of want to see, right, where your users are coming into your website from. But now what Firefox is going to do is they will trim the referrer header. So you will no longer get the full URL inside of the referral. You'll only get the domain name. So if they were on a page like andrew.com/myarticle, I wouldn't see that they were on the My Article page when they clicked through to my website. I would only see andrew.com. Now you can read through this little link here. Down in the description, I'll post a link. I'm going to post each of the links here in these various episodes on my website, followandrew.dev, so you'll be able to click through these links. But that's basically the reason why. And one of the reasons why they're advocating for this change is to affect privacy. So you don't want to, I guess the logic is you don't want to be able to leak certain pages that you're on to other website visitors. They can use those to kind of track you or see your browsing habits and other things like that. So anyway, that's the first link for today. So a new update in Firefox 87 no longer will have that header. The second one here is a tweet from Elon Musk. So this one you can see that Elon Musk says you can now accept or Tesla rather, will accept Bitcoin payments to buy a Tesla. So what does this have to do with the web? Well, I don't own any of these cryptocurrencies, and I never really traded these cryptocurrencies. I did start kind of researching this a little bit last week. I ran into the situation where I needed to do an online transaction, and they were requiring or requesting rather that it be done through a Coinbase. So I didn't have a Coinbase account, so I started researching in how to set that up so I could go ahead and pay with Bitcoins essentially for this service. And what I found was that it was actually, there was a lot of friction in the process. It wasn't as easy and natural as I would have expected. And the biggest takeaway I had from this and why I think this is interesting is with Tesla now accepting Bitcoin, it's going to even further mainstream Bitcoin for purchases, not just, microtransactions or online transactions, but now for real world goods, you're going to see more wide adoption of Bitcoin. One of the problems I see with Bitcoin, and maybe why it hasn't taken off as much on the web as you would have expected maybe by now, is there's actually a significant cost with doing small amounts of Bitcoin transactions. So if I'm selling a widget on my website for $10 and I want to accept payment in Bitcoin, the initial idea is that that's great because you can avoid some of those overhead costs with credit card fees, the 3% plus 30 cents per transaction. And in theory, if you accept cryptocurrencies, you can minimize some of those overhead Visa fees or online transaction fees. But there's actually still a significant portion of the transaction that happens through Bitcoin or any of these other cryptocurrencies because they have to validate your transaction on the blockchain. So there's like this blockchain transaction validation fee that gets tacked on to Bitcoin payments, and it's very similar to a credit card transaction fee. So interesting, but I thought it was worth mentioning in this week's episode. Third link here is the end of AMP. So if you're not familiar with what AMP is, it's Google's Accelerated Mobile Page. I can't actually remember the acronym. Oh yeah, there it is. Accelerated Mobile Pages is the acronym for AMP, and it was sort of invented by Google. And the idea behind it is that you offload your own website article to Google servers, and they will serve it on their website in a much quicker and faster manner. Now, this seems fine. I've always disliked AMP from day one. I've strongly disliked AMP. Now, the reason why I didn't like AMP is because Google then would rank their search results. So in their search engine, if your website was using AMP, in other words, if you were offloading essentially all your traffic to Google, they would rank your site higher in the search engine and give preference to those websites that were following along Google's rules. Now, this article basically states that while AMP is still a thing, Google is not going to now be considering those AMP-based sites for preferential treatment in the search results. So it's about time this has happened. This has been probably my number one problem with Google for the last while, is their fact that they were giving preference to AMP sites. And I could go on and on and on about why I think that's a really bad idea. But anyway, hopefully AMP dies altogether and website owners can take back control of their own content and decide how they want to manage it themselves. And Google won't have the power to rank and derank people if they don't follow some made-up protocol that they decide was good for the web. All right, next link here is from Chromium. So this one is in Google Chrome in a latest update. They are now changing the way the default refer works, not the default refer, but the default address. So if you just go to your browser address and you type in www.andrew.com, just a random domain name, the default before was Google would try the non-HTTPS version first. And then if the server required HTTPS, they would have to redirect back to the HTTPS version and then try again. So the new default is if you just type in a domain name without the prefix, the hypertext transfer protocol prefix, it will automatically try the HTTPS version first and then fall back to the non-version second. So the idea here is that supposedly this will be faster since most sites on the web are HTTPS. So you can see before, right? If you just type in a website, it has to go hit your server, and your server redirects and says, no, try HTTPS. And that redirects back to here, and then your server finally can respond back with a web page. So there's two requests that need to be made in the old method. And the new method here, you can see, because they're falling back to default HTTPS, that only one request would be able to need to be made. Of course, this assumes that your website is set up with a secure certificate by default, but those are really, really growing, right? In the last couple of years with Let's Encrypt and some of these other services, a majority of the web is now encrypted, whereas before the majority was unencrypted. So that's a good thing, I believe, in the end. All right, next link here is from our Firefox, and this is the last one for today. So Firefox 87 also introduces this new smart block for private browsing. Now, Firefox has really been pushing privacy and ad blocking and a lot of those type of things lately in their browser updates. And one of the problems with the way they were blocking a lot of these ad tracking scripts and social scripts is that some websites would rely on those scripts in order to load. So if Firefox then blocked those by default, the user, the end user, would be confused because they might go to CNN.com or some website like that and nothing loaded, right? They'd think the website's broken, when in fact it was sort of Firefox's fault because they were blocking ad tracking scripts which were in some way required to load the page. So in the new update to Firefox, what they're doing is they call this now Smart Block. So they will actually load the very first portion of those required scripts, just enough so that the page will load, but they sort of do that in a safe manner where it is still unable to track you. So they call this the Firefox 87 Smart Block. And you can kind of see down here, there's a bit of an example where you have a before and after. If you go to a website, right, this is the before where things would just break. And then this is the after over here on the right where everything loads as you expected, but they still can sort of offload all those things on the side. So that is the 5, I thought, interesting links from the last week that were in the web-specific area for interesting topics of discussion. So anyway, go ahead and leave a comment in the section down below. And in the future, I actually hope to sort of publish this on a schedule, so you'll be notified when there's going to be a new live course. I want to actually mix in the comments right above me here, so you'll be able to live comment, do Q&As, and maybe I'll feature some comments and just kind of give you my off-the-cuff answer to some of these comments. And then hopefully in the future also bring on some guest people to discuss different topics and sort of do more of a vlog style, not vlog style, but podcast style, bit of a live interaction here. So I hope it's beneficial. We will see you in the next one. I will still plan on doing my scheduled pre-recorded tutorials for all things web and graphics and whatever suits my fancy. So those will be coming as well in the future. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe already, and we'll see you next time.